On this edition of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast, a State of the Union in the Western Canadian Baseball League with Kevin Kvame. Welcome to episode 62 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. Before we get going, we want to take a moment to thank you for downloading and listening. It's hard to believe, but it was a year ago this week that we launched the podcast. Little did we know how receptive you would all be to the idea of listening to Alberta's baseball stories. We are extremely grateful that you make us a part of your week and look forward to bringing you even more in year two. To mark the occasion, we're going to do something fun here. If you're a regular listener, take a couple of minutes and go to your social media account and share your favorite episode or your favorite guest and tag us in that post. Do it over the next week, and we'll select one winner to get a brand new ADS t-shirt. We'll announce the winner on next week's episode. Now on to this week's guest. Another summer of Western Canadian Baseball League action is now in the books. The teams have been able to take a deep breath and look at all that happened. It all came to a head this past weekend at the WCBL's AGM in Weyburn, and there was no shortage of things to talk about. They named their all-star teams and their award winners. Congratulations, by the way, to League MVP Caleb Warden of the Lethbridge Bulls and Okotoks Dog star Tristan Peters, who walked away with Rookie of the Year, Canadian Rookie of the Year, the batting title, and the playoff MVP awards. You can see more on that with our photo gallery at albertadugoutstories.com. The itinerary for the league's AGM also included the future of the Melville Millionaires and the Yorkton Cardinals, as well as some news on the Brooks Bombers ownership situation and a new team in Sylvan Lake for 2021. To get the up-to-date information, we chatted with Kevin Kvame during Wednesday's noon hour. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
When you look back on the summer of 2019, how will you personally remember it?
Well, I think that at our annual meeting, the one thing that came through was the fact of how much of a difference we have achieved in the last 10 years. Our attendance in 2010 was just over 105,000, and we went over 300,000 in the league in 2019. I think that just shows the level of baseball that we're providing the fans of Alberta and Saskatchewan, and their maturity over the years in appreciating that level of baseball and going out and attending the games.
This was the first summer where you were under the new brand, Western Canadian Baseball League. You also had a different kind of schedule, different kind of playoff schedule. You also had an all-star game. Weather, was not a help on that front. But at the same time, how would you view all the different changes that were made last winter and how they progressed onto the field?
Well, we weren't very happy with the weather, to be honest.
I don't blame you on that front at all.
That was a common statement at the annual meeting. The teams were frustrated with the weather and the impact it has on your walk-ups and things like that as you go through the summer. June was especially bad, and Edmonton seemed to have some storm blowing through it every single night of the year. So. Or of the summer, so it was an ugly summer as far as that goes. But the people still did come out. As you said, we did have our All-Star game, and we were really pleased with the inaugural one there, and can only see bigger and better things down the road for that. The schedule was a little bit bigger this year from a regular season standpoint and less from a playoff standpoint. Which allowed us to schedule events into August at all of our franchise locations. So they had a little bit longer regular season to put special guaranteed games on throughout the summer.
When you look ahead to 2020, anything on field or off field that you're expecting to be different? We'll get into the franchise situations in a second, but just in terms of the overall product, are you expecting anything to change or anything different?
Well, I think that we're going to do a couple of things. One that would probably be most interesting to the fans out there is we're going to the international rule for all extra inning games. So they're going to see if we go into extra innings. This is during the regular season only. Is that we'll be putting runners at first and second base and playing the extra innings like that. So I think you're going to see more offense and more strategy to try to end the extra innings a little quicker.
Interesting stuff. Let's get into the storylines for the franchise, because a lot has been said over the last few days here. Let's start on the Saskatchewan side first off with Yorkton and Melville. How long have those situations been on your radar?
They've been they've been on the focus of the Expansion and Stability Committee for a number of years now. I believe Yorkton's troubles really started a few years ago when they held a lottery, and they ended up not selling enough tickets and had to refund all the money for the tickets that were sold. That left them in a precarious situation in that all their expenses that they had put in, i.e. advertising and ticket printing and administration costs to do the lottery, you don't get that money back. So they were put back financially due to that, and I don't think they've ever caught up. Melville's been an ongoing, small center. The people in the community really do support the team, but again, this year it seemed to be the result of a lottery that they held where they amazingly sold $350,000 worth of lottery tickets in their lottery, and came away with what we're hearing is about a $5,000 return, which is just unbelievably poor. Too much money got spent on expenses and things like that, and they don't. And when they do those teams need that revenue to operate, because they aren't drawing the people to the parks to sustain their operational costs. So they have to do that extra stuff to be that community franchise. And some of them do very, very well, like Regina, Moose Jaw, Swift Current, Weyburn. But Yorkton and Melville have just struggled, both on the field with their facilities and with their off-field fundraising for a number of years. And it was felt both by the teams and by the league that they need to step back and do a couple of things. One is try to clear their past debt if that's possible, and then number two is develop a key business model and business plan moving forward where they can possibly come back into the league and be a viable participating member of the league without being strained every single day of the season to keep the operation moving.
Is there anything in particular that you would like to see them bring to the table in that year? Well,
the Stability Committee does have some targets on it, obviously, getting exactly the two things I just spoke of, a viable business plan, paying off long-term debt, and, a facility plan. Facility plan has to address the community's needs for drawing baseball fans to the park, and Yorkton in particular is their facility is just not good at all.
Mm-hmm. Leave of absences versus other options that I'm sure were on the table. What other options were available to you, and why go with the leave versus anything else?
Well, it was more a negotiation with the team because, they really there was no real other option available, I don't think, when you really consider it. They wanted the opportunity to try to reset their operations. So obviously the other thing the league could have done is just revoke their franchise and say, okay, you're no longer part of the league. But our intent wasn't to do that unless the team was, wanting to cease operations. And in both cases, neither franchise was ready to state that at this time. So I think to give them the opportunity to reset their operations and to clear some of their past problems is the most fair way to go.
on the Alberta side of the border, the Brooks Bombers making it official on their social media platforms. They'll be entering a different structure ownership-wise. How optimistic are you about that change to a community-owned model?
Well, again, it really comes down to the desire within the community, and that's been on the table for a while. The ownership situation of the Brooks team changed throughout the last year with the previous ownership group bringing a new group to the table that was operating or owning the Brooks franchise. And they had made a decision in the summer that they were much more interested in a different market than the Brooks market, and they were going to invest their energies and attention to that market. Nothing, against the Brooks market, but just more familiarity and more connections to the other market. So they had made the decision possibly to consider moving the franchise or selling the franchise to different ownership completely in Brooks. And that's when some of the local people that were operating the franchise in Brooks came forward and says, we think that the model that the Brooks Bandits have, being a community-owned, not-for-profit organization run by mainly volunteers and maybe a staff member or two, is the ideal model for us. We would be excited about doing that. We think the city would be on board and so on. So we met with them in early September and met with the city of Brooks at the same time, and they outlined their plans for it, and pretty much everything started to fall into place after that, with an agreement in principle to sell the team from the existing ownership to the Brooks Regional Ballpark Association, who will be the operators of the team from this point forward. And they have a pretty good business plan in place and ideas how to make the market work for them and to draw community pride, which Brooks is a great community with lots of pride, that we think will work for their franchise.
I assume that other market would be the long-rumored Sylvan Lake market. And I'm curious, where are we at with that? Because they've made their desires fairly well known to this point.
Well, probably if you're checking your email box in the next few minutes, you'll have a press release from the WCBL that is announcing Sylvan Lake has been granted an expansion franchise for the 2021 season. So we're really, really excited about that. And you are correct. That is where the ownership group that was with Brooks is they have purchased the expansion franchise in Sylvan Lake. The league approved it at the annual meeting, and just in the last day we've signed the documents confirming everything, and we're able to make that public for the first time today.
That's some fantastic news. What excites you about the opportunity to move into Central Alberta?
Well, obviously, your keywords there are Central Alberta. It is a Central Alberta team. They have a great population base, lots of history in baseball over the years. But Sylvan Lake, the location of the ballpark and the type of park that they're developing is going to be awesome for the area and for the league. And we just think that it's going to be a venue that baseball fans are going to want to go to and enjoy another WCBL team in that market, whether they're coming from, Sylvan or Red Deer or Stettler or Innisfail or Rocky Mountain House or wherever. It's a great area that has lots of history in baseball, like I said, and we think it's going to be awesome. And the ownership group is committed and dedicated and invested in the area and making this team a huge success in the coming years.
Are there other expansion plans on the table as we speak?
There's always, the individuals kicking tires out there. I wouldn't say anything right now is imminent because the biggest thing that has to happen, and this showed with the Sylvan Lake expansion, is that you don't just put a WCBL team in Sylvan Lake unless you have a park. And there's not a lot of venues around Alberta that are ready, or Saskatchewan for that matter, that are ready for a WCBL team that are going to be able to put 500, 1,000, or 1,500 fans in the park.
Any issues on the scheduling front with moving Medicine Hat to the east and having two less teams?
Not really. The Medicine Hat move really is not that impactful for too much. Their distance that they'll be traveling in 2020 is very, very similar. In fact, within a couple of 100 kilometers, actually less than what they did in 2019. So for them, it's a modest change. They'll get to play Swift Current more. We also did some regional games where they'll see Lethbridge and Brooks a little bit more than they do the other Alberta teams. But the other move we made is that every East team will travel to every West team, and every West team will travel to every East team. So all of the rivals that Medicine Hat used to see, they'll still see in their community. And then, like I said, they'll see Swift Current and Moose Jaw just a bit more.
There's been a situation that's been percolating a little bit in Edmonton as well with whoever is going to get the lease for Remax there. Where are we at there? What's the latest on the prospects front?
That is a great question that I wish I had a more definitive answer for at this time. In fact, we've reached out to the city of Edmonton for a comment. We were led to believe in September that there was an agreement in principle in place, and we now understand that they want to rethink that. They have made overtures that they definitely want the prospects playing there. But until there's a actual agreement and what the terms of that agreement are, it really puts things in a holding pattern, both for the league schedule and the All-Star game. So we're trying to deal with that as quickly as possible and get that resolved. Hopefully the city of Edmonton will realize that there's a number of other franchises in the league that they're affecting by their actions and delays.
How happy are you with the situation in the other Alberta markets, Okotoks, Lethbridge, Fort Mac, and Medicine Hat?
Yeah, I think that obviously Okotoks is been drawing extremely well for a long time now, and they continue to do so. The fans in that community have embraced it. Edmonton was drawing very, very well last year, and we hope that the city of Edmonton and the prospects can come together and keep baseball moving in the right direction in the Alberta capital. Fort McMurray and Lethbridge have great facilities, with the renovations at Spitz Stadium and the brand new facility in Fort McMurray. Those teams will, Fort McMurray was right there in the mix for a playoff. That was a great playoff race last year. It came down to the last weekend of the season, and Edmonton just went on a roll at the right time and snuck past Fort McMurray for that final playoff spot, which was very disappointing for the Giants. But in the end, it was a great playoff race coming down to the wire. And Brooks, I think they have a new enthusiasm, new leadership, new ideas, and that I think they'll be working hard to put a competitive product on the field. And we still have Medicine Hat in Alberta, even though they may not be in the West Division, but they always put a good product on the field. And we're excited to see what they'll put on the field for 2020.
If you and I were to sit down again in a year's time and have kind of the same sort of discussion, where would you like to see the league headed?
Well, I think we want to continue to move forward. I want to continue to see more and more fans embrace the level of baseball that's available. I want to see that 300,000 number continue to tick up. I want to see the All-Star game become a prominent Canadian event in the league. And, ideally, I'd love to see 12 franchises back competing in 2021 because 12 is a nice number to work with.
Kevin, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast.
No problem. Thanks for having me again.
Again, thanks to everyone for downloading and listening to the podcast. And don't forget to tag us in a social media post about your favorite guest or episode for your chance to win an ADS t-shirt. Until next week, thank you again for all of your support, no matter the platform, of Alberta Dugout Stories.